back on the border once again to talk about many of the things that we've been able to achieve, as well as discussion of more that must be done. First, I want to thank the Texas Department of Public Safety for hosting this event today. I want the Attorney General Paxton for being here, for his active involvement over the past year to make sure that lawsuits are brought against the Biden administration for their chaotic open border policies, as well as for his legal action to defend what the state of Texas is doing to make sure that we have the most robust response of any state ever in the history of the United States of America in responding to provide a more secure border. I want to thank DPS Director Steve McCraw, National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your collaboration. We have the Texas Division of Emergency Management Chief Nim Kidd, Adjutant General Tracy Norris, several sheriffs, Sheriff Dawowski from Zapata County, Sheriff Martinez from Brooks County, Sheriff Salinas from Kennedy County wanted to be here, could not. I have a comment from him that I'll be sharing later. We have Sheriff Salazar from Williston County. We have DPS Deputy Director Dwight Mathis. We have the Texas Military Department Deputy General Monte Ulis. We have the National Border Patrol President of the RGV, Paul Perez, and the DPS Regional Director for the RGV, Victor Escalon. Listen, we are constantly both adjusting as well as increasing what we're doing along the border because of facts that we see on the ground that continue to challenge the state of Texas. Let me just give you the most recent example. We've been involved from the beginning in cracking down on the inflow of fentanyl. Overnight, there was a report of what happened on March the 4th in downtown Austin, Texas, where there was a large number of people who were found who were victims of fentanyl-laced pills. People died in Austin, Texas just a few days ago. Others suffered very severe medical consequences because they took a pill that they unknowingly did not know that it was laced with fentanyl. And if you look at what was said by the Austin Police Department sergeant in charge of the investigation, he said everybody knows that these fentanyl-laced drugs come from across the border. It's a fact. One of the worst consequences of Biden's open border policies is the dramatic increase in the amount of fentanyl that is coming across our border. Texas law enforcement working together, they have seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in Texas, California, New York, Florida, Illinois combined. It is deadly. And the people stepping up to do something about it are Texans. The Texans you see at this table right here. I mean, I have yet to ever hear the Biden administration talk about the deadly problem that we're facing concerning fentanyl. I don't know if the Biden administration even cares about it. Between the ages of 18 and 45 over the past year, the leading cause of death was not COVID, it was not cancer, it was not car wrecks, it was not guns, it was fentanyl. This is a national-based issue that the President of the United States is doing nothing about. We have to count on but the state and local law enforcement, we see at this table, to step up and do something about the deadly consequences of fentanyl. In addition to that, the people at this table, they've been involved in arresting criminal aliens, some with very long rap sheets. They've been seizing an increasing number of illegal weapons as well as currency. And of course, we have an ongoing challenge with regard to human trafficking, that the drug cartels traffic people across the border who were victims of human trafficking before they arrived at the border, victims of human trafficking when they crossed the border, and victims of human trafficking as they continue to be trafficked once they come into Texas and then go across the rest of the country. Well, Biden's open border policies have led to also a shocking increase in deaths. I talked about fentanyl. In Texas alone, there have been, over the past year, more than 1,300 deaths associated with fentanyl. And residents, ranchers, are lodging increased complaints about migrants overrunning the property, destroying the property, and causing damages on the property. And who can forget the horrific story about a mother and her daughter driving in a vehicle in Mission, Texas, who were T-boned by human smugglers. And a human smuggler T-boned them and killed that mother and daughter. They should be alive today, and they probably would be alive today if the Biden administration was doing their job to secure the border. Because they're not, Texas is having to step up. Because of all these problems and the escalation of it under the Biden administration, and I got to put this in context. Remember, under the last year of the Trump administration, border crossings had led to a multi-decade low. And all the Biden administration had to do was to continue the policies that the Trump administration put in place. But instead of that, the Biden administration abandoned all of those policies and opened up the border to anybody who wanted to come in, and people have come in from more than 150 countries across the entire globe. Interestingly, including even from Russia. People have been apprehended coming across the Texas border. To help respond to this, I've issued disaster declarations to include counties across this region so that they would be able to tap into the resources and tools the state can provide when a disaster declaration is declared. We deployed about 10,000 National Guard members working with a large number of Texas Department of Public Safety officers to better secure the border. And we even have support of National Guard or law enforcement from other states, including Arkansas, Florida, Iowa, Nebraska, Ohio, South Dakota, and Tennessee. And now Texas is doing something that no other state has ever done in the history of this country. Texas is building our own border wall to better secure our state. And then in addition to the border wall, there are other barriers that we are putting up to make sure that we will prevent people from coming into Texas illegally, and which includes, among other things, mile after mile of razor wire, as well as other border deterrents to deter people from coming in. On top of all that, I signed a law making it easier to prosecute smugglers. I signed 15 laws cracking down on human trafficking. I signed a law enhancing penalties for making it a felony for people to manufacture or to distribute fentanyl. And as you will hear momentarily, a long list of legal actions taken by the Attorney General to hold the federal government accountable for their decisions not to comply with federal law. Well, Operation Lone Star and other law enforcement activities have now made or have achieved meaningful levels of success in dealing with the influx coming across the border. Let me just give you a couple of examples. I mentioned earlier that they've seized is about 1,300 pounds of fentanyl, which is about 280 million lethal doses. They've made more than 12,000 criminal arrests and apprehended more than 212,000 illegal immigrants who came across the border. Very importantly, as we discussed here before you all came in, they have shown that in areas where Texas, working with local law enforcement, have been able to increase the personnel in certain border regions, such as in the Rio Grande Valley region, we've been able to cut in half the number of illegal border crossings. In addition to that, there is a new category of information that we have begun together, and we have more than 13,000 turnbacks where people were trying to cross the border, and because of action by the Texas Military Department or by Texas DPS or others, we've been able to turn those people back and deny them entry into the country. And also because of greater concentration of forces, we've been able to lead to a decrease of bailouts that could cause a lot of damages wherever that may take place. And let's go back in time to something that we were dealing with that we wanted to make sure was addressed very aggressively. Go back to the time period, I think it was in September, when we saw candidly a massive multi-thousand caravan of people who had a connection to Haiti gather under a bridge outside of Del Rio, Texas. And we needed to dramatically increase the personnel by the state of Texas, for one, to be able to confront that caravan of people and make sure they stopped coming across the border into the state of Texas. But also at the very same time, there were multiple stories about additional caravans that were making their way through Mexico, targeting Texas as their location. One of the successes that we've been able to achieve is because of the massive addition of the number of personnel, especially the dramatic increase in the number of National Guard. We've been able to ensure that there has been no other caravan crossing our border since the time of all the Haitians gathered under the bridge in Del Rio, Texas. Our goal is to ensure that we do whatever is necessary to prevent any further caravans from crossing our border. Very importantly, without the efforts of what we have put in over the past year, there would be millions of deadly drugs on the streets in Texas. There would be thousands more human trafficking victims. There would be no resources to respond to the complaints and concerns by the ranchers and residents. Reports earlier is that the number of 911 calls have increased dramatically. And we've been able to help respond to those 911 calls and provide the relief that the families and ranchers and residents needed. And without the resources that we've provided, there would have been virtually no impediment to illegal border crossing. And people across this region have been helped. It's impossible for me to have the time to share with you all the stories. Let me share with you just 3 stories. One is from the Armstrong Ranch in Kennedy County, where the person reporting this said, and I quote, as South Texas ranchers, my family saw a significant drop in damage to our ranch gates and fences following the deployment of Texas DPS and State Guard personnel to Kennedy County. We strongly support Operation Lone Star, and they thanked us for what we're doing. Also, the Kennedy County judge wrote, quote, Operation Lone Star and its assets made a tremendously positive impact for Kennedy County landowners. We are very appreciative, and that was written by the county judge. And then Sheriff Salinas, who could not be here, said this, and I quote, that he said, we appreciate Texas for sending the troopers and National Guard to our county when we needed them the most. It made a very big impact on all of the illegal immigrant traffic. We cannot stress enough how much we appreciate the state for their great assistance. Somebody who's been important in that and in connecting with all of the residents and ranchers around the region is Susan Kibben. We appreciate her involvement in this process. Bottom line is this. We continue to deal with the consequences of Joe Biden's open border policies. The response we've been able to provide has lessened both the number of people coming across the border as well as the consequences coming across the border. Our goal is to both increase what we're doing, but come up also with evolving superior strategies to reduce the influx of people coming across the state, whether it means building more wall or using other strategies that will turn back people from ever getting into our state and country to begin with. Working together, we will be able to achieve that goal. And now I'd like to turn things over to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. By the way, thank you again for everything that you're doing to represent the state against the Biden administration and represent the state for defending the actions that we're taking just simply to provide safety for the people of our state.
Governor, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for initiating Operation Lone Star a year ago. Before I talk more about you, I want to thank Border Patrol. I've met hundreds, if not thousands, of Border Patrol agents who literally want to do their jobs. They know how to do it well. They know how to do it well, and they literally have to operate with 2 hands tied behind their back and blindfolded. And I feel bad for them that they're in that awful situation, but just whenever you talk to Border Patrol, just please tell them we appreciate what they're doing.
Thank you.
I also want to note that since President Trump left office, the governor has a very challenging job. He's got to manage a situation where the federal government is responsible for Border Patrol and for security, and they're not just not doing their job, they're affirmatively doing the opposite. And so to manage that is not an easy situation for any governor. But I'm going to make the argument, I don't think it's been said publicly before, maybe it has, I just haven't heard it, that since President Trump left office, I don't think there is an elected official in this country that's done more for border security than Governor Abbott. And I have not seen it, and I don't know that anybody's ever said that, but I think that's an absolute true statement since we lost President Trump. So as we look forward, I want to thank also the people that you've incorporated into this mission. Colonel McCraw, your people are doing an amazing job with really no, I guess, precedent to deal with this, and General Norris, you too, with the National Guard, and General Lewis, thank you all for what you all have done, because I truly believe this is a mission worth doing, and I appreciate you putting this together. We do what we do in my office. We don't have a lot of law enforcement like you all do. We have lawyers. So the legislature gives me lawyers, so we deal in the courtroom. We've filed 9 lawsuits against the federal government, the Biden administration, since day one. I want to tell you about a few of those. The first one was on day 3 of the Biden administration, when the Biden administration, when Joe Biden announced that on day 1 that he was no longer going to enforce deportations. And as Brandon can tell you, that's not federal law. That's in opposition to federal law. We had an injunction on day 6. I don't know that there's ever been an injunction against an administration that quickly or a lawsuit that quickly. And we were able to stop them from stopping deportations. Since that time, we've had other lawsuits that are going forward. They're not as quick as deploying people on the border, but they are happening. The Remain in Mexico program, we've been in litigation since almost the beginning of the administration. And you all are familiar with that program where basically if you come here claiming asylum, under federal law, you're supposed to either be detained or sent back to your country of origin or back to Mexico. And since the Biden administration decided not to follow that law, we sued them. We've been successful at every level. And we actually are going to the U.S. Supreme Court the week of April 25th to argue our case, and they obviously have appealed it to the U.S. Supreme Court, to defend our borders and to defend Texas. So that's ongoing. And then finally, our last lawsuit that we filed was the Central American Minors Program. A lot of people don't know about this, but this was reinstituted from the Obama administration by the Biden administration. It's hard to believe this is actually a program. There's nothing in law that allows this to happen. But Governor, this program allows, if you claim asylum and you're from one of these Central American countries, Guatemala, El Salvador, or Honduras, you can have your family transported up here tax-free, and then they get sent around the country. And it's completely illegal. It's not authorized by law. And so we've sued them over that as well. So we have a continuing fight with the Biden administration with the hope that as time goes on, we will force our president, who has betrayed the American people, who doesn't follow federal law, who doesn't follow the constitutional role of the president, to do what he's supposed to do under the Constitution, to do what he's supposed to do under federal law. And so as we think about what's going on at the border of the Ukraine, and the Russians are invading Ukraine, and I noticed that Congress is spending several $billions, I don't know the number, $13, $14 billion, to help Ukraine defend against Russian invasion. We do have a few Russians along our border, but the reality is what we really have is the cartels along our border, and their silent partner is President Biden, because he's enabling them to do the human trafficking, to do the drug importation, and people are dying because of it. And so I want to end by saying I really do believe that what you all are doing, what you're doing, I know for a fact that we're saving lives, that you're saving lives with what you've done. I don't know how many thousands of lives that is, but every day that we're successful, we're preventing people from dying either from the spread of COVID, from drug overdoses, or from other crimes. And that, to me, is a worthy cause for Texas to be a part of, especially given that our president doesn't seem to care about the lives that are being lost. So thank you very much again. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for being such a significant part of saving lives of not just Texans, but really all Americans.
Thank you. Thank you for your help. Next, we have the Texas Department of Public Safety Director, Steve McCraw.
Governor, thank you. So I believe it's been a year, Governor, since you first directed Operation Lone Star. And I know you recognize the time we briefed you and got you up to date, as you always insist upon on a weekly basis in terms of the numbers, is that we saw a dramatic increase in fact, a global mass migration event that was set off somewhere around February we started experiencing here in Texas. And we heard from our sheriffs. We heard from certainly landowners. You know, we've heard from our Border Patrol partners who were immediately overwhelmed when that happened. And the consequences are the most significant threat, public safety threat to Texas and every community of Texas is an unsecured international border with Mexico. And your concern was that as a result of that, transnational criminal activity was coming across, or actually flowing across between the ports of entry. Those gotaways, well, there's a lot of gotaways in that regard. Unfortunately, we've got cartel operatives, we've got transnational gang members, we've got not only just cartel operatives, cartel members themselves, we've got drugs, fentanyl, but certainly methamphetamine, 5 tons of meth we've taken off during that period of time. It impacts Texas communities. And you've always been very forward-leaning as it relates to public safety about what can we do immediately, action. And of course, thankfully, we're able to provide National Guard support and be able to work with our local partners and certainly coordinate with Border Patrol so we're in a position to be able to, your first goal, detect and interdict criminal activity between the ports of entry. And we did that. And that included, dealing with landowners that are being overwhelmed in terms of criminal trespass, being able to take that aspect of it. The second part is more preventive. Blockade, you mentioned it. Whether it deals with Haitians underneath the Del Rio International Bridge, or if they're destined, to Eagle Pass. You made it very clear that whatever it takes, our job was to deter, not to welcome it, but deter it and protect communities from being overwhelmed. Third order battle, was a prevent transnational criminal activity, not just in terms of interdict it and wait for it to come here, but do everything we can to prevent it. And certainly in law enforcement, these law enforcement professionals here know that the absence of crime and disorder is the best measure of success. So that's been our goal from day one, to achieve that. You can't do it unless you actually secure parts of the Texas-Mexico border. And what we've been able to do, under your leadership and working with our partners, is to do just that, zone by zone, portions of it put in place as a result of the 3 basics, barriers, bodies, detection technology, and some of the capabilities. And General can talk about, land, air, and then certainly marine capabilities to bring to bear together in a unity of effort and put us in a position so no longer can the cartels exploit, parts and parcels of land between the ports of entry, but if we have to use razor wire or some of the permanent fence that you built in terms of Starr County, all of those things in a combination, and certainly the federal part of it, and to be proactive. So these are no-go zones for the cartels, period. They can't operate in this particular area. And I'm proud to say, as a result of the teamwork and your leadership, we're in a position right now to say that we got 4 zones. Would you say 4 zones right now?
Yes, sir.
Director? 4, and we're working on 5. Now, we aligned ourselves with Border Patrol zones, simply because they already have it, and they've got sub-zones across the 5 Border Patrol sectors that we have in Texas. And we'll keep chipping away at it. That's 4, that's 5, that'll be out of 103. Okay, so obviously no zones are created equal. It's a little bit easier going out to Big Bend country in terms of securing it versus dealing with Starr County. The law of large numbers, and what the priorities of yours is to focus on where it hurts the most. And even though Del Rio had lower numbers, disproportionately they had fewer resources. So it was necessary on the front end to be able to deploy there. Similar right now, Starr County. I don't have to tell the sheriffs here, and Zapata County is right next to it. They understand the Gulf Cartel. They understand the West LA Cartel in terms of its activities and being able to be proactive in that area. So we've got nearly 5 down, and we've got, we'll do the math here, 98 to go?
Yes, sir.
Something like that?
Yes, sir.
General, help me there with that. So, and we're committed, and thankfully, the resources you and the legislature provide us, put us in a position to be proactive, because at the end of the day, what matters most is not what we catch as much as what we don't catch as a result of securing it once and for all. So thank you for your leadership, and appreciate the General for leaning forward and dealing with our federal partners.
Thank you. Next is the Chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, NIMCID.
Thank you, Governor. Our agency continues the daily support of and coordination with the Office of the Attorney General, the Department of Public Safety, the Military Department, Texas Parks and Wildlife, the Commissions on Law Enforcement and Jail Standards, but also the Department of Criminal Justice, State Health Services, Office of Court Administration, the Border Prosecution Unit, and from my perspective, our most important, our local partners. We focus on the missions of putting safe and effective intake and detention facilities to make sure that they are staffed appropriately, fire and EMS protection there, as well as the rest of the technology that goes along with IT, phone, and video, so that they can be moved through the process. Governor, we continue to stand by to support any resource requests that are needed.
Thank you very much. Next is the Adjutant General for the Texas Military Department, Texas National Guard, General Norris.
Thank you, sir. Last year, Governor Abbott activated your Texas National Guard and State Guard supporting Operation Lone Star. In addition to working alongside DPS, and our personnel have been helping numerous state and local partners across the region. By the end of last summer, the scale of the disaster became very clear, leading us to a race to the border to prevent another migrant crisis as the nation witnessed under the Del Rio International Bridge with over 15,000 Haitians, a humanitarian crisis. We rapidly surged from 500 to more than 10,000 people on mission under the governor's disaster declaration in a matter of months, due to the threat of additional migrant caravans projected to impact the state. Additionally, we surged in thousands of vehicles, heavy equipment, including those with advanced optics day and night, as well as weapons, ammunition, ballistic vests, and plates. I want to thank everyone serving on Operation Lone Star and those supporting our efforts to protect our own backyard and those that take care of our service members. This is a historic and unique mission for our force. Our success, as always, rests on the professionalism of our soldiers and airmen. They go home, they put their uniform on, and then they come back to serve their state and nation. We have the most experienced National Guard and State Guard in the history of Texas, as well as probably in the history of the nation. Like all members of armed forces, we're an all-volunteer force who can be activated at inconvenient times, but always in support of our fellow Texans and Americans. And I'm pleased to report our members continue to rise to that occasion. And I can't praise them enough and thank their families and their employers and ensure that we continue to protect our neighbors in need. Also, I'd like to say that you can keep up on our facts and successes by the press releases that we are keeping on our website. I will now turn it over to Brigadier General Eulis, our on-the-ground Operation Lone Star commander for our soldiers and airmen on the border, and he'll discuss our record of success.
Well, good afternoon. Since the start of our mission supporting DPS, our interdiction efforts to confront criminal activity has grown significantly. Currently, we're proud to say that we can actually help DPS secure sections of the border by land, air, and river. By land, we currently occupy security positions in order to get after what Governor Abbott talked about, is increasing the number of turnbacks. Those individuals that seek to do nefarious activity, we do not allow them to come into the state of Texas. Additionally, we conduct brush operations, which is actually search to find individuals who have made it into counties above the border. And then just recently, combined exercise here with the director, we were able to do our first boat exercise, which we will then put into place along the Rio Grande. Additionally, Texas National Guard continues to surge response exercise to be able to repel large caravans from Brownsville to Del Rio, which for us is a no-fail mission. Because of our service members' outstanding work, we've apprehended or assist with apprehension or turned over to Border Patrol or DPS 113,000 illegal migrants, but more importantly is the number that the governor talked about, which is the 13,000 turnbacks. That's critical in helping secure the border. Texas military forces have constructed over 17 miles of barrier of 75 miles that we have under contract. And that barrier is a combination of either chain link or concertina wire, better known as C-wire. Significant drug seizures have occurred. Service members' actions along the border contribute to numerous seizures by alerting law enforcement partners to illegal crossings or suspicious activity along the river. That's what we're there to, how we support our DPS partners. As a result of Texas National Guard actions supporting DPS, our communities are safer. Our citizens of communities across Texas have expressed their appreciation for our presence and, more importantly, from protecting them from criminal activity.
Thank you very much. Next is the president of the Border Patrol Council, Brendan Judd.
Governor, thank you. I am by far the least of these great men and women that are sitting at the table here today, and I'm proud to be here with you today. Attorney General Paxton took it to a new level. You upped the ante. About 10 months ago, I said that Governor Abbott is doing more than any other governor to secure the borders than anybody else. But you said that he's doing more than any elected official, so way to go. Way to up that ante. Governor Paxton, among the lawsuits that is the most impactful for the Border Patrol is when he and Missouri sued the government for taking away the migrant protection protocols, disbanding migrant protection protocols. Federal judge re-implemented that, but the federal government is only enrolling 8.9 people per day in that program, on average, per day. We are apprehending between 5,000 to 7,000 people every single day, and yet the federal government is only enrolling 8.9. When Governor Abbott talks about open borders, what he's talking about is he's talking about the policies that this administration has implemented that is rewarding people for crossing our borders illegally. And what that's doing is that's allowing the cartels to use illegal immigrants to distract law enforcement from the dangerous products that are coming across the border, all of the dangerous drugs. 100,000 United States citizens lost their lives to overdoses last year, and that is being driven by the cartels in Mexico, the Gulf Cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel. It's strictly driven by them. And they're able to use, under Biden's policies, they're able to use illegal immigrants in order to facilitate that trafficking. That's got to stop. When you look at the successes of Operation Lone Star, I have to look at the other states and how they're being impacted. Commander McCraw, as he said, they have now secured 3 zones in the Rio Grande Valley sector. There's many zones that have to be secured after that, but they went after the top 3 zones. And if you look at the numbers and the drop in the numbers and the way that they've been able to push the traffic out farther west, and we're looking at Arizona now as the area that is being impacted by the most on this, which is a good thing. They're expanding out. Secure those 3 zones, expand out. When you look at the number of gotaways, in fiscal year 21, we set records for the number of gotaways, over 400,000. We're now on pace for over 500,000, but those gotaways are not taking place in those zones that you were able to secure under Operation Lone Star. Those gotaways are now transitioning out to Arizona, and Arizona is being hit by far the hardest. Again, start at the most trouble spot, work your way out, and that's how you can secure the border. And through Operation Lone Star, we're able to do that. And if it wasn't for Texas National Guard, I can't tell you how appreciative I am to the guardsmen and women that are out there, that are the eyes for the Border Patrol. When the cartels distract and deplete resources, that takes resources out of the field, if it's not for the Texas National Guard, we would not be able to detect, and the gotaways would continue to surge. So they're doing a fantastic job. Operation Lone Star has clearly played a huge, significant role in securing the border in this area. Governor, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Next is Sheriff Dabowski from Zapata County.
Good afternoon. Because of the Biden administration open border policies, this year as a newly elected sheriff was a year I would like to forget. But an achievement to remember and a goal that I saw that Governor Abbott had. He united the Texas military, DPS, Texas Rangers, Border Patrol, and many border sheriffs in both state and federal law enforcement agencies to do one thing, to protect our U.S.-Mexican border, and most importantly, to secure the safety and the security of our citizens. A year ago, Governor Abbott set out on a mission to counter and stop illegal smuggling and trafficking of humans, drugs such as fentanyl, meth, cocaine, and that's how Operation Lone Star was created by Governor Abbott. When our national leaders turned their backs on us, on the border counties, Governor Abbott stepped up to the plate and took charge of our national security and safety, and I thank you, Governor Abbott.
Thank you very much. And I want to recognize someone who serves kind of as the human interlocutor between all the law enforcement as well as the average citizen out there who's suffering the consequences, and that is Susan Kibbe of the Texas Property Rights Association. Susan, thank you very much for your help. With all that, we'll be happy to take a few questions.
Colonel LeBron, are there plans for arrests in Kennedy and, well, in Brooks County, in Willacy County? Because we haven't seen arrests too much over there. Is that something that's going to be happening soon?
Yes, for criminal trespass, absolutely.
Okay. Has that already started, or where?
It's already started in Jim Hogg County. We've made any arrests in Brooks yet?
No, sir, not yet.
We will. Unfortunately, for Brooks County, as you know, we've got the Falfurrias checkpoint, and as a result, we've got a lot of smuggling in that regard, and landowners have been suffering, criminal trespassing problems for well, nearly a decade now, so.
Hold on a second, let me make one thing clear, and that is, they make arrests in all counties every day for all different types of crimes. In addition to that, we are expanding the operation to multiple other counties where we're also making arrests for trespass.
Governor, can you consider Operation Lone Star a success given the number of suicides that have occurred by National Guardsmen, as well as complaints of pay inequity or not being paid, not being allowed to leave from their jobs?
Well, first, with regard to anything like a suicide, listen, a suicide is something that I personally, as Commander-in-Chief, take seriously, but I also know that the military leaders who are at the table today take very seriously. And this is something that predated Operation Lone Star, whether it be in the Texas National Guard or the United States military, and it's something that we are all committed to making sure that we provide the mental health resources that are needed so that people will not go through the consequences of mental health challenges that could lead to suicide. They, being the military leaders for the Texas Military Department, are working to increase the mental health resources and personnel in all the regions in which they provide service. That said, the successes of Operation Lone Star are enormous. Again, if you look, if nothing else, just at the amount of fentanyl that's been taken off the streets, let me tell you something. There would be thousands more people who will have lost their life because of fentanyl had it not been for the people you see at the table today leading efforts to reduce that fentanyl and seize it and get it off the streets. There would be far more people who would be victims of human trafficking because there wouldn't be anybody here to stop it, because the Biden administration is allowing the human traffickers to run roughshod across our border. There would be many more victims of crimes on their property, whether it be here along the border or whether it be further inland, whether it be San Antonio or Houston or Dallas or wherever it may be. And there's a long list of crimes for which they've been making arrests that would have otherwise been taken place without our law enforcement and military department working collaboratively with local law enforcement to make communities safer.
Governor, multiple experts say that the permanent solutions to the migration issues come from Washington, D.C., right? Has your administration reached out to the Biden administration to see if the state of Texas can work collaboratively with the administration in D.C. and collaborate with Congress, because laws have to be passed really long to make this different long term? Has your administration done anything like that to move the needle sort of forward and resolve this for long term?
So to make a clear point about the question that you're asking, the United States Constitution delegates to Congress the responsibility to write the immigration laws. Congress has written immigration laws. The Biden administration is refusing to enforce those immigration laws that the United States Congress has written. So what we're trying to do is to compel the Biden administration to very simply follow the laws that the United States Congress has already written. And the Biden administration is abandoning the responsibility to apply those laws. And so goal number one is to get the Biden administration to follow those laws. And yes, we have reached out both privately as well as publicly by lawsuits filed by the Attorney General suing the administration for not following those laws. And we will continue those efforts to hold the Biden administration accountable for not enforcing the laws already passed by Congress. That said, it's up to the President to work with Congress to address a very broken immigration system. I know that members of Congress have reached out to try to do that. The Biden administration has been feckless in any attempt to do anything about that, seemingly because the Biden administration wants these open border policies. The reason why I can say that, if you go back and look exactly what President Biden said when he was candidate Biden for the presidency, he campaigned in favor of the open border policies that he's implemented in Texas as well as along the entire southern border. He told the American people he was going to implement these open border policies. Now the American people are seeing the consequences of these policies that he campaigned on, that he promised he would deliver. It's been a disaster for the Biden administration and for the people of Texas and America.
Two more questions.
Governor, may I
Please,
back
go-
off that?
Go ahead.
So Governor Abbott has reached out to the Biden administration, but there's been several other entities. I personally have spoken with the administration about what needs to be done to secure the border. When he made the decision that he was going to get rid of the migrant protection protocols without putting in place any other policy that would take that, that would fill that gap in, he was told specifically that if you release people into the United States under what is dubbed the catch and release policy, if you release them, if you reward them, they're going to continue to come. So what he was told was, if you get rid of the migrant protection protocols, you have to hold people in custody here in the United States. He said it was inhumane to hold them in Mexico pending their deportation or asylum proceedings. So he was told that you have to hold them here in the United States. He refused to do that. Instead, he exercised prosecutorial discretion and released people into the United States, and that is what has drawn. So he knows what the solutions are. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He just refuses to do that because he's putting politics ahead of the American public. Thank you, Governor.
Governor Abbott, do you say or think that Title 42 in general, is it working? Is it having any effect at all?
So it was clear under the Trump administration, Title 42 was extremely effective. And I think it's wrong for the Biden administration to abandon Title 42 and no longer enforce